Hi, I'm Lori Anthony with ABC 7 News. Welcome to a forum of candidates running to become the Area 4 representative for the County Board of Education. Area 4 includes Blackhawk, Byron, Danville, Diablo, Discovery Bay, San Ramon, and parts of Alamo, Antioch, Brentwood, Clayton, and Concord. The Board of Education establishes policies for the programs the Office of Education administers. Included are special education, career development, and educational opportunities. Today's forum is sponsored by the Contra Costa Elections Division, Contra Costa Television, the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley, and the League of Women Voters of West Contra Costa County. We're recording these roundtables here in the studio of Contra Costa Television. The candidates are Mike Maxwell and John E. Crowder. We drew lots before the show to determine the speaking order, so we will begin with Mike Maxwell. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you.
We'll start right off with, if elected, what would be your top priority?
Well, my top priority has always been to make sure that the kids and the parents, the teachers and the staff are always the first priority in the county. It's often, especially with the advent of special interest groups and charter schools and some of the other people that are influencing education now, oftentimes those groups get missed. And even though they're our most important people, we really need to be sure that we're focusing on that. And that's always been my goal as I served the last 4 years and as I would hope to continue to serve in the next term.
All right. Same question. What would be your top priority if you are elected?
Thank you. And first I'd like to say thank you to our host today, Contra Costa Television, League of Women Voters, and the Elections Department for hosting this. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and for everyone to learn about the different issues in all the races. My top priority in Contra Costa County Area 4 would be to ensure that a lot of the students who are unfortunately disenfranchised as far as receiving a proper education would have the opportunity to do well in school, to excel. Area 4 is a very wide area. It runs from San Ramon all the way to the southern part of Antioch. And when you look at that area, you see quite a diverse and different level of outcomes among the students. You have students, for example, in Monte Vista High School who do extremely well. Yet in Antioch High School, the numbers are quite different. So my goal would be to make sure that all students are receiving a good education.
And John, let's continue with you for the second question. I'm a parent of a high school student in the La Miranda area. I know what my high school district is, and I kind of know what they do. For folks who don't understand the relationship between the county Board of Education and what the individual districts do, what is the relationship and what control, if any, does the county office have over the individual districts?
Well, the County Board of Education really doesn't have control over the districts per se. The County Office of Education does have a role to play in helping with such things as, for certain districts, they might offer the special needs programs that some districts can't offer. We oversee the budgets, so we take a look at the budgets and make sure that the district's budgets are viable, that we're not running into any problems. We do teacher development. I understand from speaking with teachers that that's something that we need more of an emphasis on going forward. But the districts really are self-contained for the most part. So we do have some oversight roles, and the board and the superintendent are really different also. The superintendent's elected official as well, and she has certain oversight roles more so than the board itself, which sets policy.
I guess same question for you, Mike. I mean, why should folks who live in these various districts be concerned about what happens and who's on the board at the county level?
Yeah, John mentioned it earlier. The county really does oversee the curriculum and the budget for these districts. The districts have complete autonomy. We come in and approve their LCAP or their local funding plan, and then we provide services. So we provide some ROP classes, we provide special education where it's needed, and we provide a lot of special interest facets of education that the districts are not providing. We are trying to get in and fill those cracks.
And with regard to special education, I know because unfortunately I've done some of the stories about, you know, concerns in different communities about how sometimes these kids have been treated, or there's a mandatory reporting requirement, right? So we're still hearing of children being hurt in classrooms and things not being reported or not being reported in a timely fashion. What would you do to ensure our children are safer in the classroom, not from some outside threat, but from maybe what can happen inside a classroom?
Yeah, you know, it's really imperative that we continue to develop funding. We've been flat funded for the last a little over 4 years, and so there's no more money coming in, so we need to go outside to find funding because we need more teachers, we need better teachers, we need more aides in the classroom, we need more people to be participating in our children's education, and right now we don't have the money to pay for it. And at some point we're going to need to go outside of that and start soliciting from the community and from the business areas, hey, you need to invest in the future because these are your future employees, these are our future business leaders, these are the leaders of our country. You need to be in there and providing funding so that we can continue to provide that excellent education that Contra Costa County does.
John, same question. I mean, you know, it's a difficult area sometimes with special ed, and we at news outlets hear from parents who want to complain about the way their child is treated or the way a program's been run and why didn't the school report it and things like that. If the county is overseeing special ed, what would you do to ensure that those students especially are treated in a way that ensures their safety in the classroom?
Sure. You know, I think that's a very important issue, and I can definitely understand the concerns of parents and others who've seen some of the news reports that have been out there. And even in Antioch, I know we had a case where there was a teacher abusing a student in the classroom, and that made the news, and of course that's get people very concerned. These are some of our most vulnerable students. As far as mandatory reporting goes, that is a requirement. I think part of that goes to proper training. I think we need to ensure that all the teachers and all of those who have a relationship in the classrooms with the students understand their duties under the mandatory reporting requirements, that they're trained to make those reports, understand how that's done. And I think it also goes to oversight, and that means visiting the classroom, seeing what's going on, talking to students and talking to parents. I think there's really no substitute for that.
Well, I'll stay with you, John, on this one. I mean, we're talking about a lot of, unfortunately, what we cover in the news these last few years has been threats from outside to schools, and it honestly used to be in the news business that we didn't report on threats. Now, unfortunately, because it's become such a reality, we do. And at the county level, what would you do, what should be done to ensure that our campuses are safe across the county, no matter what communities they're in?
Well, I think as we've both mentioned, the districts are really autonomous in how they set their policies, how they do their administration, what they spend their money on, and how they put their resources to appropriate use. So really we have more of a role, I think, in this case to advocate for procedures that would help keep the schools safe and encourage the school districts to take steps to ensure safety. Personally, I would like to see the return of student resource officers to campuses. I know some districts don't have them any longer, or at least have some form of security on the campuses. I think it's very important that we keep our children safe, and those would be some of the types of things that I would advocate for.
Mike, same question. I mean, what can or should be done, and what's appropriate, I guess, at the county level to help foster the security of these individual districts and campuses? Yeah,
it's a difficult line to balance, just because we don't want the schools to feel like prisons, but we want those kids to be safe. That's ultimately our number one priority. And so I think it goes along with making sure that we're not at minimum standard with staffing. We're not at a place where teachers can't be out on campus during breaks. Teachers can't be out walking the campus. We need to be overstaffing. We need to add more teaching jobs, more paraprofessional positions, and we need to get out and get people out so that everybody's looking. It's similar to when we travel through the airports. We're told to talk about things that don't look right, and we need to get that training not only to the teachers but the students and the parents to talk about when things don't look right and get ahead of it.
Do you see that as a role that the county office and the board could play for these districts?
I think the county can help facilitate that. I think that ultimately the districts are going to do what they feel is best for their schools, but I think it's definitely something that the county can facilitate. We just signed with a new program, the Sandy Hook Promise, and they're allowing us the tools and the training and the resources to get out and provide those types of training opportunities. And I think just things like that, the county would be a great resource to get out and provide that to other schools.
Another kind of hot button issue, if you will, in schools is charter schools. And you know, different districts in Contra Costa County have grappled with the issue, and there's a lot of debate about, you know, whether they're good, they're bad, they belong, what's the role. What's your feeling about charter schools and the appropriateness of those, and if they're a good thing for this county?
You know, I think charter schools are a great addition to the educational process as long as they're in the right area and they are being run correctly. There's been a lot of news in our area about a number of our charter schools that are not being run correctly right now, and we're fixing that. The county is actively fixing those problems and putting plans into place to keep things going in the right way. But what we want to avoid is shoehorning in charter schools just because a corporate sponsor, a for-profit organization, can get as many as they can in. We want to avoid that. We want to make sure that they're filling a need. There are some excellent charter schools in Contra Costa County, and others that are coming in need to take pieces of their plan and put them into action for themselves.
All right. John, same question. I mean, do you have a position on charter schools? Do you feel there's a place for them in this county? And what would be the role of the Office of Education if, for instance, there's a charter school that's not performing to a certain level?
Sure. I think I should say, first of all, I'm a very strong advocate for school choice. And I support all the different types of schools that are educating our children, and it goes beyond charter schools. I support homeschooling, I support private schools, parochial schools, religious schools. I believe the more choices a parent has in our free market system, and certainly our children's education is one of the most important things that we should be concerned about. And I want to see parents have options in that area. I have worked in Antioch to bring the rocket ship charter school to the students of Antioch in an area that was extremely crime-ridden with very low-performing schools. And before I got involved with helping to advocate to bring this school in and build a coalition to help do that, I went and investigated the school firsthand. I saw the work they were doing. I saw how successful they were in San Jose and elsewhere. And so I'm strongly in favor of school choice, including charter schools.
To continue on the charter school topic, what about those who say that charter schools are siphoning valuable resources and students away from the public schools, thereby creating, you know, more problems for public schools?
Well, frankly, I don't buy that argument at all. I don't think it's true. What happens with the way school districts are funded in the state of California is you have an average daily attendance that's given to the students, which follows the student. So in my mind, the money that we're setting aside from the state to help a student achieve success should be at the school that is achieving the results. Quite frankly, there are a lot of schools in Contra Costa County which are grossly underperforming. And in those areas where that is happening, I not only would hope that we'd have charter schools, I would welcome charter schools, high-performing schools, to come in and give those students who've been disadvantaged an opportunity for success.
Same question for you, Mike, in terms of, you know, people are critical sometimes of the charter school model because they believe it actually hurts the you know, I know that was the argument certainly in Walnut Creek, and when, you know, Clayton Valley and the Clayton folks wanted to make those into charter schools,
right,
that's a drain on the other schools that are left behind.
Right, and it is. It's you know, it makes sense what John has said about the money should follow the student, and the money does follow the student, but it also fragments. And so if you have, you know, for example, if you only have 13 kids left over and you don't have a full department, or excuse me, a full period of art, well, then it affects that because that period of art goes away, or history, or whatever the class may be. I'm in favor of school choice, and I again will reiterate that charter schools and schools of choice are a great opportunity as long as they are being done right. You know, we have a charter school that is showing an enormous surplus, and let's make sure that money is being funded and pushed back into the schools. Let's make sure that it's being used the right way. Let's make sure it's being used for the student, teacher, and staff's benefit.
Speaking of staff, you know, if I understand it correctly, the county office oversees some of the staff development, is that correct? Or career development? One of the challenges facing all these districts in Contra Costa County, which is a relatively affluent area, is that their teachers can't live where they work.
Right.
So do you see a way that that can be corrected, or is there anything that the county can do to help attract quality teachers and in some way help them live somewhere close to where they're actually working?
Yeah, you know, there are some districts in the Bay Area that are offering affordable housing incentives for teachers. There are districts, and I believe one of them is in Fremont, that is offering the ability to, the length of time that you spend at your school will help pay down your student loans. So there's a lot of incentives and like that, and unfortunately, you know, it all comes down to money. And it's being able to pay teachers a competitive wage. You know, a teacher that makes $60,000 in California is not the same as a teacher in Little Rock, Arkansas making $60,000. So it's not the same. So we need to be making sure that we're staying up with what the cost of living is in the Bay Area and paying teachers, incentivizing them to come here.
John, what are your thoughts about being able to provide, you know, support, if not direct money, salaries to teachers in Contra Costa County, especially where the challenge for many of us is just to be able to afford to live here?
Sure, absolutely. Where I grew up in a little log house in the middle of Alaska. And in the town I grew up, all the teachers lived in town. We knew all the teachers knew all the parents, all the students. It would be great to see that in every community in Contra Costa County. Unfortunately, as Mike mentioned, it's very difficult because a $60,000 salary here in California simply does not go as far as it does in other parts of the country. I think it's great that there are some other municipalities, some groups that have come together to come up with different incentives to allow teachers to be able to have affordable housing and to work here. And I would absolutely encourage that to continue. As the county board or the county office of education, we really don't have any direct way to make that improvement, but we can certainly advocate for it and encourage those who are doing so.
All right. John, what do you think you bring to a board position? What do you your experience, your career experience, your life experience, and your qualities that would make you an asset to this board?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a little village in the middle of Alaska. I grew up in a log house where most of which we built ourselves. My parents weren't able to provide myself and my siblings with a lot of material possessions, but they did provide us with the idea that we needed to really educate ourselves and use our educations to go on and do what we wanted to do in life. And so I have a strong sense of the value that an education can bring to anybody to really put them on a track towards success. Secondly, I have a lot of business experience. I worked for American President Lines, one of the second largest container shipping company in the United States. I've worked with diverse groups there. I've managed budgets over $100 million and over 100 people working directly for me. And I also have a lot of experience in education. I own and operate a private school in Antioch, and I've also worked in the public schools. So I think my experience is broad and deep.
And Mike, same question. I know you've been on the board, but what do you bring to the table that makes you unique and a strong contributor?
I like to think of myself as a gentleman politician. I don't like to think of myself as a politician, but I bring experience. I'm a product of this district. I went to school in the San Ramon Valley. I taught at Monte Vista High School. Go Mustangs! And
go Wolves! I went to San Ramon.
Are you a Wolf?
Yeah.
That's all right. We won't hold that against you. And crosstown rivals. And I've been on the board. I'm involved. I'm on the board of the directors at the YMCA. I've run the programs for them. So I have a widespread of experiences with working with students, but I'm also a businessman and a parent of a student that went to San Ramon Valley High School. And I watched him grow up through the San Ramon Valley school districts, and thrive. And so I think that I just have got that grasp of what this ward needs.
All right, and Mike, we'll stay with you. What kind of relationship should a district, the county board, have with its families and its community? And I think, again, that people don't think of the county board as having an influence on their lives necessarily.
Right.
Why should they care about whether either of you gets on the board?
Understandable. It's kind of a hard position to get your arms around, but the county provides some great special education classes and programs. The county provides ROP, computers, and robotics. The county also is in charge of the court and community schools, which we just turned into a charter school. So we are using those funds directly for the charter school, and we are taking care of those kids that slid between the cracks, but by no means need to be ignored. They are great students, and those teachers are doing a great job. So the county really is taking the position of trying to make sure that everyone is covered and to provide a support mechanism for the districts within us.
John, what do you envision the relationship should be between the county board and board members and the community and parents and families, or parents who are sitting down with their ballots here and looking at this race and wondering, does this one matter to me? Why does it matter? Sure.
And a lot of people, I would say, probably aren't even aware that there is a county board of education, or if they are aware, what exactly we do. In addition to oversight of the budgets, which I think is very critical for ensuring that the right programs are in the right places at the districts, we have a couple of very important duties. So number one is hearing the appeal of charter schools. We have communities in Contra Costa County, we have schools in Contra Costa County where students are not performing and have not been performing for years, and there doesn't seem to be anything changing. I was aware of a middle school in Antioch where when you disaggregate the numbers and start looking at some of the special populations, the African American students in that school, that middle school, only 2% of them achieve even basic level in math. We need to focus right away on changing those numbers, and what I would want to do is to work rapidly to go look at those districts where there is underperformance and ensure that something's being done to help those students succeed.
And John, as you look ahead in the next 5-10 years, assuming you're on the board, what does the county board look like? What does the county office look like in 5 years? Is it thriving? Is it accomplishing some of what you're talking about?
Well, I hope that if I am elected to the board, one of the things I want to do, in fact, the most important thing I think we need to do, is we need to start looking at these vast discrepancies between some schools like Monte Vista, you mentioned, where the kids do incredibly well. Over 90% of the students in Monte Vista achieve basic, and a lot of them exceed basic in mathematics. Whereas in Antioch High School, it's a completely different story. Only 9% of the students at Antioch High School ever achieve basic proficiency in math. I think we need to quickly address some of these vast discrepancies, find programs that will work to turn around this academic difference in some of the underperforming areas. And I would hope that 4 years, 5 years from now, we'll have made significant progress in that area and greatly raised the academic numbers for all of our students.
And Mike, same question. What's that? You look in your crystal ball. What's it look like?
You know, the county office has an excellent staff. They're all very well trained and they're all so dedicated. But there is a lot of change this year. We're going to have a new superintendent. We're going to potentially have 3 new board members. We're going to have, we have changeover in the cabinet, so we have a lot of change in the county, but we also have a lot of growth and a lot of expectation. And what I'd really like to see is to see us continue to grow these programs and see where shortcomings are that the school districts are having, that we can come in and backfill and make sure that kids are getting a well-rounded education, getting everything, keeping music and keeping the electives, keeping math scores up, keeping all the things that kids need to have that good, solid education.
I know in my community and in Monte Vista and San Ramon, where we went to school, there's plenty of parent support financially, you know, and when a district is having a hard time, they can call on parents. That's not the case in all of these districts. We have about a minute left here. How would you, when you say backfill, I mean, if the district doesn't have any money, where do you backfill from?
Well, again, that's where the district needs to, and it's hard because it's sometime, and I don't know if this is going to, I don't want to say it's an ego thing, but the districts really are doing an excellent job with the resources that they have. But at some point, I would hope that they would come to us and say, hey, this is what we need. And at that point, the district or the county needs to be able to say, okay, we have the resources now, we have the funds, we've been raising the money, and we want to put that towards improving math scores in Antioch, improving a tutoring program or something like that. Whatever the needs are, we need the districts to be able to say, hey, could you please come in and help us with that?
And John, do you see that as the county's role to try to help backfill some of these discrepancies?
I do, in the sense that I think we really need to encourage some of the districts that are underperforming to make sure their focus is in the right area. For example, when I look at these low math scores, which I've mentioned repeatedly, and the same thing is true for the English language scores. There are certain districts that do incredibly well. And then there are other districts where you have schools, and even within the same school district, sometimes you'll have a school that does well in one part of town and a school that does very poorly in another. And I think a lot of that comes down to, quite unfortunately, mismanagement of funds and putting funds in the wrong place. And I think it's vital that we ensure that our funds are going toward the types of things that are going to ensure academic success for all the students.
All right, thank you both. That concludes our question and answer session. Thank you for answering our questions. Now each candidate will have 1 minute to make a closing statement, and we will begin with John Crowder.
Thank you, and thank you again for holding this forum. I really appreciate it, and thank you to Mike Maxwell for being here as well. I'm running for a county school board because I want to make a difference for students in Antioch, and especially for those students, not just Antioch, I'm sorry, but in Contra Costa County, but especially those students who have been disenfranchised in the education process. You can look at some school districts where year after year the performance never changes. And having worked in private schools, having worked in the public schools, having worked in an after-school tutoring program, I know that there are programs that can be put in place that will work, that can help all students succeed. And I'm running to try to advocate for those programs to come into the different school districts where the students are struggling, to ensure that all students get a quality education. And I ask respectfully for your vote this election. Thank you.
All right, John, thank you. Mike Maxwell, your closing statement.
Thank you. I want to be a resource for all of the parents and teachers, the staff, and the communities within Contra Costa County. We have an outstanding educational program in our county and some very dedicated teachers and staff, principals that are putting out some super programs. And my goal is to not only fill some gaps and provide more programs for areas that need them, but also to provide support and to be a voice for those that maybe need a little extra or an additional step so that we can achieve greater education than what we're already providing. We appreciate all that everybody does. We appreciate all the work that the staff and the teachers are doing. And I would appreciate it if we all would get out and vote vote in November. I'm Mike Maxwell, and I'm running for Area 4 of the Contra Costa County Board of Education.
All right, thank you both. That concludes our forum of candidates running for Contra Costa County Board of Education Area 4. Once again, the candidates are Mike Maxwell and John E. Crowder. For more information on the candidates, visit the website votersedge.org. To view this broadcast online, go to www.cocovote.us. I'm Laura Anthony with ABC 7 News. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to vote on November 6th.